Well, hi there, it's Tiffany from Daisy Farm Crafts, and today I'm going to do a tutorial for a blanket that Hannah made for her very first baby, our cute little baby James, who was born 3 weeks ago. It's the Raindrop blanket. It's this beautiful gray blanket that she made out of Forever Fleece Finer. However, they've discontinued this yarn. But if you're lucky to have grabbed some before it discontinued, you just need 3 of these. But for today's sample, I'm going to do a nice substitution that you could use, which is with the Burnout Bundle Up. So if you do use the finer, I'm using the J hook. And if you're going to use the Bundle Up, I'm going to be using the I hook. Now, this pattern, though, can be used with any yarn. It would be just beautiful. I'm using some of our very favorite stitches, which is, this is the herringbone stitch in between, and these are double crochet. One is a regular double crochet, and then you go the next row, and it is a front post double crochet. It has a simple back loop single crochet ribbed border that I'll show you how to do. But other than that, here's what the back looks like, and it's just gets these little nubs on it. The counting, though, is what we'll be going over. It's basically every 6th stitch is the raindrop, and up here you'll work 8 stitches, and it's the 9th stitch, and then we still have 5 between. This is on the 6th, and then there will be 8 to finish the row, like that. On this last section over here, you will omit, like you don't want to have 1 and have 3 left. We'll kind of have these larger sections on each side. So there's 4 rows in between each section of the raindrops. So that's just an overview, but let's get started and I'll show you the stitch and the pattern. So for your base chain, you're going to want to chain a multiple of the number 6. So for today, I chained 24 chains. We will begin in the 2nd chain from the hook with a herringbone half double crochet. So we're just yarning over, inserting our hook, yarning over and pulling up a loop, and then you pull through just the first loop on the hook and then pull through the remaining 2. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, and pull through the first loop. Yarn over, pull through the 2. So you'll just go and work this herringbone half double crochet, 1 in each chain. So since I am using different yarn, this is going to be a little bit smaller sample. So even though it's the same amount of stitches, look at how much smaller my sample will be. So when you're making your own blanket, just make this base chain to the length that you'd like. So for this blanket, we did 34 inches, but that does include the border, which is about 1.5 inches. So you could just make your chain in a multiple of 6 to about 32 inches, and you'll get a good sized blanket. Okay, guess what? The 2nd row and the 3rd row and the 4th row are exactly the same. We are going to work 1 herringbone into each stitch across the row. Now I am working underneath both of the loops. So I insert my hook. And I'm just going to work in each stitch across the row. And I'll always chain 1 and turn. All right, so this is what it looks like after row 4. And I kind of want you to see that when you're looking at the blanket, this is considered maybe the right side, the tail, the starting tail will be over here, but you can definitely see 2 sections of the herringbone stitch like that. That's 4 rows. Now on rows 5 and 6, and you can see how when we turn it, you can see just 1 row here and then 2 and 1 row there. You see that a little bit of a difference? This would be considered the back side, I guess. Here we go. We are going to work herringbone into the first 5 stitches. And on the 6th stitch, we change and just do a double crochet. Now let's work 5 herringbones. And on the 6th one, double crochet. And you will do this across the entire row. Here's number 5. And it does take some getting used to. I kind of sometimes like pinch, definitely turn the hook to get it through that one. And now here's our double crochet. Yarn over, insert our hook, pull up a loop, pull through 2, pull through 2. So it is such a small difference. Might take you a minute to get used to the difference between a double crochet and this herringbone half double crochet. Okay, we just made the 5, and here's our double. And now we should have 5 stitches left to the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so work those. Chain 1 and turn. Now we're still going to be working 5 herringbone stitches. And then when we get to that double crochet, we're going to work around the post. We're going to pop forward. Here it is. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's our double crochet. So by popping it forward, I mean you're going to insert your hook underneath the post of the stitch, kind of pop it forward, and we still work a regular double crochet, but instead of going underneath the 2 V's, we pop it forward. Just like that. That gives us what Hannah called her little raindrop. So cute. Now make sure that you don't work into that V. That one's taken. We already did it. We worked around the post, so that V will be there. So when you work your next herringbone, make sure you're going into the correct stitch over here. Okay, so I'll show you the front post one more time. Okay, insert our hook from front to back and back up to the front. Just pop it forward. Front post double crochet is what that is. All right, so finish this to the end of the row, chain 1 and turn, and then work 4 more rows of just herringbone, and then I'll show you the little bit of a counting change so that we can get these raindrops to be in between. Okay, so here is what I've got so far. 4 rows, and then on these 2 rows is the little raindrops, which basically are the front post double crochets. And now we have 4 more rows. Now, let's chain 1 and turn. And this time we're gonna aim to put the little raindrops in between these. So all we need to do is work 8 herringbone half double crochets, and on the 9th one, work a double crochet. So I've made 8, and now let's work a double crochet on the 9th stitch. Now it changes, and we will be working 5, just kind of like we did before, in between each. So make sure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then your double crochet. Now, if you were working all the way across the blanket, you'd still be doing 5, and on the 6th, a double crochet. But when you get towards the end and you just have the 9 stitches left, work just all herringbone stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sorry, when you have 8 stitches left after that last double crochet. Mainly because we want to match the 8 stitches that we had on this side of the blanket with the 8 stitches that we began with on this side of the blanket. So that's why we're not going to work another one close to the edge. Okay. So we should have our 2 double crochets right there in between these. So we've got our 8. And here's our 9th, and it's our double crochet. So we'll work that as a front post. And then work our 5 stitches in between. And pop that forward. So it's looking pretty good. Got these kind of in the middle of those. I'll finish to the end of the row, and then I'll go ahead and I'll work 4 more rows, and I'll teach you the fun border that she put on here. Well, this will be the last 2 rows of your blanket. You'll want to finish it with 4 rows, and then you will clip off when you're done. Take the time to, weave in some ends before you get started on the border. But let's go ahead. I'm going to just get started right away on the border. So we're going to start in any corner. So I think I'll just come over here and pull up a loop. I think I'll pull up a loop in that chain 1 space right there. Give me a good little starting spot. I pull through a loop and I'll chain 1. And to start, I'm just going to work 1 single crochet into that corner spot. Now we are going to work 1 round of single crochet. So, oops, I didn't work underneath both of those loops there. There we go. So in each stitch, work 1 single crochet, and when we get to the sides of the blanket, you'll work 1 single crochet per the end of each row. Now, if you happen to be using different yarn and because this yarn, Bernat Bundle Up, is kind of, it's polyester, so it's very, what's the word, springy, bouncy. And sometimes your acrylics aren't as much, it really just depends. The goal is to make sure you evenly work single crochets around your blanket. So sometimes on the sides, you might need to add an extra one. Now when we get to this last stitch, which is considered the corner, let's go ahead and work 3 single crochets. And now here is where we're going to start working 1 single crochet per the end of each row. Let's go ahead and count that first one as the stitch of this first row. And then you'll work single crochet into that next one. So it's kind of like there's a large hole for you to find, and then there is a smaller hole for you to find. And again, when we get down here to the corner, in that very first space for this one, trying to find that chain 1, but it's a little tricky. Let's work 3 single crochets. And at the bottom of each of the stitches, because this is our starting chain row, let's work single crochet. Well, I'm back to the beginning, starting single crochet. Remember, I only worked 1, so let's work our final 2 to get us a nice little corner here. And we will slip stitch to this one, and we don't need to turn. We are just going to chain 6 . And this is a back loop single crochet ribbed border that we're going to add onto this. So in the second chain from the hook, work 1 single crochet, and then work a single crochet into each of the next 4. There will be a total of 5 single crochets. Okay, and then in that next stitch that you see, slip stitch, and 1 more. Now turn the work kind of away from you. Get this behind you as you look for that very first back loop to work into. Now it can be confusing, so sometimes it's easier to just count down to find out, because we've got those 2 slip stitches in there, and you want to make sure you're not working into those 2 slip stitches. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I personally like to work under both loops on the final one, but that's personal preference. You can still work under the back loop. Chain and turn. But on this one, I still like to work on the back loop. I don't know why. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I think it just depends on what project I'm doing, but it looked, whatever you do, do the same thing every time. That's the most important thing. Okay, so we've already worked in this one, so let's make sure we work into the next one and the next. Like I said, I constantly always am 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, there it is. I kind of start at the end to make sure I'm working into that correct stitch. Now, the only time that you will work into the same stitch is when you get up here to the corner. So say you'll be slip stitching 2 over. Once you finally get up here, just slip stitch 1 over, go out and in, slip stitch 1 over, go out and in, slip stitch to the same stitch, go out and in, come back to the same stitch, out and in, and then slip stitch over. Okay, what you're going to do is try to build a fan of 3 rows around that based on that middle chain, and then you'll just slip stitch over 1 time to get that right there, and then you can go back to your 2. So essentially you'll have 5 little rows out there to get yourself fanning around the corner. Okay, and then when you're all finished, you'll come back around, say you work and you work and you work that fan right here, out and in, out and in. You've got your 3 that you're slip stitching here, and then you're finished. Go ahead and tie off, and you'll have these 2 ends with like a little hole right there. You're just gonna take your tapestry needle and sew the 2 sides together, okay? Down in the link in the descriptions, if you need more help than that, I've done this border many times, and I'll leave a link to another tutorial that will show you exactly how to sew that together. But hopefully that's a good enough overview for you. Okay, so I think that whatever yarn you choose, your blanket is going to turn out beautiful. One more tip is just say that your borders, you have different yarn and it really is starting to pucker. You always can only slip stitch over once, or say it's gathering, slip stitch 3 times. It just kind of keep that, what's the word? Adjustable, and do it based on your tension. But other than that, you're going to get such a beautiful, beautiful little blanket. I just love just the little bit of nubs, the raindrops. And so good luck to you. I will go ahead and post a few more pictures of the blanket just after this of baby James so that you can see. As always, thank you so much for coming to our YouTube channel, our website. Come and join the Daisy Farm Crafter group on Facebook if you'd like to show us your project that you made. We love seeing it made in all sorts of yarn, and it really helps the community to see what other options are, what it might look like in a different yarn. And yeah, so come and join. And I just really appreciate you guys. So you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.